This is Rich and Rick with Taps and Tumblers. Tonight we're going to have
NoDa Brewing Company.
That's right, and that's going to be Anthony coming over. He's supposed to know all the science stuff. Yeah, so we got expecting a fairly large crowd, I guess. Of course, it is noticed, so you know they're going to bring the party, and we're going to bring you the information when Anthony gets here. Is it him we're going to be interviewing when he first gets here?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're going to quiz him about his science stuff and bring that to you, and then we're going to do a taste. Do you know what offerings they're bringing?
Yes, we're going to have the Holy Moly. It's a Dunkel Weiss beer.
Okay.
We have the OG Kolsch, and we also have the new IPA from them. It's called the ALS Ales. So it's an IPA brewed to help out with the ALS Foundation.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. NoDa's very philanthropic. They're definitely that. So we're going to ask Anthony to expand on some of those creations they're bringing, and we'll be back with you shortly.
Today we're going to be introducing Anthony Proctor from NoDa Brewing Company.
All right, ready?
What's up?
And we've got Andy
Grimes.
How's it going, Andy?
So, Anthony, we had a couple questions for you. What exactly is your title? What is it that you do?
So I'm the QA/QC lab guy at NoDa. So basically what I do is I make sure that our beer is consistent, I kind of monitor it as it's fermenting and do various tests to make sure that everything's clean, everything's good. If there's a problem, then we can address it early. Testing our beer after it's packaged to make sure that it's shelf stable, or get an idea of how shelf stable our beer is, that kind of thing, or that there's nothing growing in the can that we don't want to be in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, you said they actually do a form of carbon dating.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. It's funny. We've got a lot of really expensive toys in the lab, but both our head brewer and I, our favorite is the incubator. It's literally a little box that we heat to about 90 degrees. We put our packaged beer in there, leave it in there for a week, and it gives us an idea of what our beer is going to taste like after sitting on a room temperature shelf for a month and a half. Because a lot of places we encourage them to put our beer, in the fridge and keep it cold, but some places either don't have the cooler space or what have you, so they'll leave it on a warm shelf, and some people might buy it and take it home and leave it out. So we want to know where our beer is going to be a month and a half down the line of doing that. So.
Okay. So, Anthony, we're talking about IPAs and things like that. You usually put a 90-day kind of span on there.
Yeah, and that gets back to, and this sounds like a dodge, and it's not. But the shelf life of an IPA, hop, drop, and roll, for instance, depends on how it's stored. If you store it cold, it comes off the line. The beer is probably 34 degrees when it comes off the line in the can. We put it straight in the cooler so it stays cold. If somebody buys it, takes it home, buys it from our tap room, takes it home, puts it in the fridge, leaves it there. I've had 3-month-old hop drops, 4-month-old hop drops that taste
Just
awesome.
as good as when
Maybe
it
not just as good, but pretty close, And I've had
What do you attribute that to? What are you doing that's going to help that?
Well, age affects the hops, and basically the hop oils, all of that will kind of roll off over time. Just they'll fade. That hop flavor, that hop punch, that hop bitterness will fade off over time, and what you're left with is whatever malt bill is back there, whatever residual sugar that's still left in there. That's why if you have an older IPA and it tastes a little sweet, particularly getting up into double IPAs, they roll off and they get super sweet. They can turn into a barley wine. Fun trick. We have hop cakes coming out soon. Yeah, take a can of that, put it in the back of your fridge, and leave it there for a year, and then drink it the next year next to a fresh one. And it's just a fun experiment. I mean, it's not going to be ideal, but it gets very barley wine-ish.
So does it go up in ABV?
No.
Okay.
It shouldn't. There are some. That's one of the things that I do is check to make sure that the beer is clean and ready to go, so you don't get any kind of re-fermentation in the can that will lead to cans exploding or that kind of thing. We don't want that.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, have you come across something that has surprised you in the field, or kind of shocked you and that you've had to fix that you're solely responsible for?
I don't know if I'm solely responsible for fixing anything. This sounds cliche, and it probably is, but we're a real team-oriented thing. And
Have to be at your size.
We have to be. I mean, any size in this business, you just got to lean on other people's knowledge and other people's experience, or something they heard or read in a magazine or whatever. to that end, to the exploding packages in, that's something that's kind of been plaguing the entire brewing industry for a little while now. It's a type of it's basically yeast, it's brewer's yeast, but it's called diastaticus. Is the kind of the technical name for it. What it does is it breaks down dextrins and other starches and things in the beer into fermentable sugars, which normal brewer's yeast would not eat. This yeast has an enzymatic property about it that it'll break those things down, create more sugars, then start eating that. They start fermenting the beer again. They're fermenting, those sugars.
So for the layman, you look at it and you go, it's overcarbonated or something like
Right.
that, but it's actually been re-fermented.
Actually re-fermenting in the package, and it takes a little while for that to happen. Now, to be clear, a lot of beers, a lot of saisons and things like that will have yeast that has that. You want that quality. You want it to dry out. You want it to eat everything in there. And you want to get that kind of quality out of it. But when you're doing a pale ale or IPA or a stout or something like that, you don't want that to happen because cans will blow up, bottles will blow up on the shelf. So that's one thing. Another thing is I think that just pops in mind is hop creep. That's something that hops also have that enzymatic property about them where they can break down dextrins and things into fermentable sugars.
Okay.
So the process of dry hopping is basically when the beer's fermented all the way out, we take a bunch of hops and we dump it in.
Like tea bags almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're literally just dumping the pellets.
Yeah.
We have a different method, but you're basically just dumping the pellets into the beer. And it's cool, it gives a big aromatic pop, a little bit of flavor, that kind of thing. That's what you're shooting for. The problem is those hops, and this is something that's also been kind of somewhat recently discovered, is they have that enzymatic property about them. So they'll break down those sugars and it'll keep fermenting the beer. So you check the gravity every day and it's like, okay, it's still falling, hasn't hit terminal yet, So it's just something we've had to make some adjustments. We didn't have to, but we did. We made some adjustments to kind of take that into account. So we're still getting the same good beer, but we're able to turn it around a little faster and keep it fresh, because that's ultimately the point is we want our beer to be consumed as fresh as possible. So we don't want it sitting around on these hops for a week, So we want to be able to mitigate that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you originally had the OG location,
Right.
Got that up and going. And when did you start with NoDa?
I've been there about 3.5 years or so. I've been running the lab for just a little over 2. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's cool. So you were basically where the CLT airport kind of was up and running. You got to see that kind of take off.
We've been in the airport for about 7 years now,
Oh,
but
wow.
I think it opened last summer. But yeah, it took a while for it to get going, but yeah.
So talk to me about the barrel increase, right? I mean, that must have helped you guys tremendously. I mean, you guys are pretty much up there with the big boys. I mean, I would say it's you and OMB Copper is pretty much it, right? I think Birdsong's a little bit further below, but...
Yeah, it's, as far as the last numbers I know of, it's OMB and then us, and then everybody else is
way, yeah.
a lot further behind. The airport, before the restaurant opened up, was a mover. Now that it has its own little, it's like having a year-round Panther Stadium.
That's awesome. That is so cool.
But we're dedicated, so all the taps except for one are our beer. So, and you can buy the package there and take it on the plane, and so yes, it's helped.
This must have all exploded once you did the GABF with Hop Drop, correct? I mean, that must have helped tremendously.
That was World Beer Cup.
World
but
Beer
yeah.
Cup,
World Beer
yeah.
Cup.
Yeah.
I
We
can
didn't-
So you
remember.
put Charlotte on the map for beer, right? I mean,
Yeah,
this was
absolutely.
that's you guys, you know.
The people that were at the brewery when that happened, that are still with the company, call it the Hop Drop Crisis, because
Ran out. I remember literally people going to the tap room saying, "I'll take that half a keg that you've got hooked up right now."
Right.
And part of that scarcity was tank space to brew it.
And other states, right? Just
And-
sucking everything out.
No,
correct?
Hops and hop supply.
And our hop contracts.
Right.
So-
We had a certain hop contract. It was basically, we were basically saying, if we brew to meet the demand we now have, we're going to run out in August, and you won't have any of it. You just kind of had to
Slow it down.
Slow it down. I think there was an account freeze for months.
I remember I would have to buy.
Years? Was it years?
I would have to buy 2 on tap. I think to put hot
When we
drop
have-
on.
yeah, just to kind of slow down the
Everything,
consumption
yeah.
of it.
Right.
We negotiated a lot of it. Winning that helped our hop contracts out.
Yes.
So where are your hop contracts now? Where are your hops coming from?
We're one of the largest hop purchasers
In the state or the East Coast?
on the East Coast. isn't it?
Probably close.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
close. Yeah.
You take Sierra Nevada and those guys out,
But yeah, definitely in North Carolina if you remove Sierra Nevada.
So you're sourcing from all over the world?
Nope, Oregon.
Yeah.
Oregon. Wow.
That's it. And we really only deal with one group, right?
well, we got Haas
Yeah.
and YCH.
Yeah.
And is it the same for your yeast? Are you still going to White Labs or?
Yeah, White Labs, with the exception of Radio Haze, the hazy IPA, that's through Y yeast. That's just a different yeast. It's a low flocculating kind of thing.
So no thought to produce your own, or is it just too much to kind of?
We're not there yet. We have a really, really sophisticated lab for the size that we are. Our lab is, if you go by the ASBC, American Society of Brewing Chemists, and you look at their kind of like recommendations for what a brewery should have based on their capacity, based on what they're putting out, or their production rather. We have a lab that's equivalent to somebody that's twice our size. So,
And why?
Todd, I think, really understands the importance of a quality lab, of being able to identify these problems. I mean, we've all had flawed beer out there, and it's not necessarily that the guys who brewed it don't care. It's just that they don't have the tools to detect that.
And you're dealing with an agricultural product.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
It can
So,
change.
yeah.
Right.
Season to season, rain to rain. I mean,
exactly.
absolutely.
Romaine.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
think of like romaine lettuce.
Yeah.
I mean,
Has anything like that happened in the hop world?
I know one year there was an Amarillo batch that was
Yeah, we had this. I remember we got some whole leaf hops.
Yeah.
That were funky, but for some of us to like hop, drop, and roll, we pack our hop back, which is this kind of it's the jazz hand of the brew stand. It's we'll pack that full of fresh hops, whole leaf hops, and run the wort through that as it's going out into the fermenters. So it kind of steeps the wort in those hops, give it a big aromatic punch more than anything.
Sierra Nevada Pale Ale uses whole leaf hop in
Right.
their whole thing. It kind of gives it that grassiness
Yeah.
quality. We use pellets more than anything, but
Well, what's the advantage to the pellet? Just consistency?
Consistently, you can store them forever. They come in these vacuum packed things. You put them in a freezer and you freeze
Yield.
them. And yield. Yeah, that too.
yield and what actual oils come out of it compared to
The dried stuff?
Chad and this past time, Chad and our lead brewer Eric Richardson went out to Oregon to it's literally called hop selection, and they go and they say, yep, I like that Citra, I like that Amarillo, I like this, and those are the hops that we get. The hop farm will process them, package them up, send it to us.
How much of it is a relationship thing where you're going out there and shaking hands and going, what are you producing this year? And what
It's
are you?
huge. It's huge. We had our rep from Haas just came in the other day and spent some time with Chad, and just again, it gets back to that trading knowledge kind of thing.
Seeing what the area is looking for, and
Yeah.
all that gets factored into it.
and winning that gold medal helped out a lot.
Oh yeah,
too.
yeah.
Gives you guys some notoriety,
Cloud,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and those growers could say that beer is made with our hop. Plus that relationship building, they now know that the consistency that Anthony instills and the brewers instill, the forward thinking that we do with hops, we get a lot to play with. They want us to be involved in things. I think when the first incarnation of ALS, ALS hop came out, we were one of the first ones to get it. Things like that.
And that was the Woody and Wilcox experiment, correct?
Very first one we did was
right.
the hop experiment with Woody and Wilcox. Yeah. Now that beer's gone and changed.
And that would be considered almost a session, right? I mean, it was pretty low. It's like a 4 point something compared to this one, which is 6.5, which we're going to be featuring tonight.
Yeah.
Get down here and get some vote. I'm telling you, this beer does not get enough love. It is really good this year.
So actually,
The ALS is so good.
and since we are talking about them, tell us about your offerings tonight. and tell us a little bit about them if you would, so we'll know what to
The Holy
expect when
Moly
we
is
go.
the Dunkelweiss,
Yeah,
and then we've
Holy
got
Moly
the,
Dunkelweiss is it's a homebrew competition.
It was the Charlotte Beer
Charlotte Beer
Babes.
Babes homebrew competition, and this is the one that won. And it's a Dunkelweiss with mole, chilies, and chocolate nibs. It turned out a lot better than I thought it would. I don't know. When I first heard, I was like, really? That's because we didn't get to drink the original homebrew, Chad and I, we just kind of like, all right,
follow the recipe.
we're going for it, yeah, and and scale it up and brew it. It's a wheat beer. It's a wheat base beer, and it uses a certain kind of a yeast that's kind of a little bit.
You guys use German Hefeweizen?
Yeah.
German Hefeweizen yeast, which
It's a harvest style beer, right? So I mean, it's designed to be drank at the end of the harvest kind of thing, like a celebration kind of thing.
well, Hefeweizens are a regional thing in Germany. They're more Bavarian. Tend to be more after the wheat harvest and then in warmer weather type stuff. A Dunkelweiss is a dark wheat ale, so it was okay. Now we can add some color to it.
It's in the fall.
The winter. Sometimes they're a little bit higher in alcohol than regular Hefeweizens. So
more of a roasty malt kind of thing, right? To get your color,
yeah,
right?
like
Okay.
so.
Caramels and brown
The
breads
idea,
and-
the typical tasting notes on a traditional Dunkelweiss would be chocolate and bananas.
Okay, so the banana would be the
yeast.
clove.
Yeah,
The
that's-
banana and clove.
Uh-huh.
So German Hefeweizen yeast depends on how hot you ferment it. So if you ferment it at a certain degree, you get more banana. If you flip that, you get more clove.
And pitch rates also can
Yeah.
come into play.
What does that mean?
So pitch rate refers to the amount of yeast that you put in a beer.
So too much would be.
Too much, it's just going to ferment out. Not enough that it'll stress the yeast out a little bit. And in things like some German strains, Belgian strains, that kind of thing, what will happen is that it'll express whatever flavor profile that yeast provides. It'll express more of that. So yeah, if you underpitched and fermented a little warm with the heavy yeast, you'll get a lot more of that banana. Probably a little less, and more clove too. That's kind of that phenolic kind of clovey kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
And for the chili, what chilies are you using?
The women that won kind of made them like up their mole
Okay.
to
Sauce
to kind of add into it.
So the next one we're going to go into is the OG Kolsch. Kolsch being a style.
It's another German style, and this is about down the middle. And I apologize, I'm not Chad, not the brewer, so I don't know exactly. He did a couple of tweaks, but it's a pretty traditional. We use Kolsch yeast. It's a pretty traditional. We ferment it very cool, so it's fermented about 52 degrees.
And what's the difference between a Kolsch and a lager?
One's made with ale yeast and one's not.
Yeah.
But
The same process though. So
same
cold
idea as what
fermentation.
Same idea.
copper is.
Yeah.
Copper's technically an ale that's lagered because of the yeast.
Right.
So like Kolsch and alt beers come from basically the same area of Germany on the Rhineland. Cologne is Kolsch. You go to Cologne and they serve you nothing but Kolsches. And they're served in little glasses and they keep coming until you put your coaster on top and tell them to stop. And you get charged for everything on the table.
Yeah, it's
It's a very light, easy. I guess the best way to describe it, it would be like the Miller Lite of Germany.
Yeah, all day drinking kind of
Yeah,
just
all day
you know.
drinking.
all day drinking. What is this? 4.8.
Yeah, and ours is made with all North Carolina malt. Too.
Oh, that's so cool.
Carolina.
It's delicious. I mean, out of the three, I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I do, as I'm not a lager fan, and I thought this was really refreshing, very clean.
Well, and it's because it's not a lager yeast, right? So it's not going to have that breadiness, that super crisp breadiness at the.
Oats,
I don't think you use oats though.
but no, wheat,
Oh,
oats.
things I would super
things that are protein, that pull more protein out. They give it a more of a mouthfeel. The more protein you have in beer, the bigger it feels, even though it could be lower in alcohol. So there's a lot of different
So I know in the whiskey world, adding sulfur or something to it gives you a little bit more of that. Did that happen with your water at all, or anything? Or where do you source your water, or how much does that affect the beer?
Charlotte's finest, you know. We basically filter everything out, strip everything out, and then we'll add things back in, you know.
Minerals and things like
Yeah.
that.
Mineral and salts and that kind of thing.
We use gypsum in all our IPAs
Yeah.
because it makes the water harder and then helps the oils and the extraction and stuff like that.
We want to get the pH to a certain
Yeah.
point, right? And it changes depending on the style of what we're brewing. But in fact, Chad and I were just talking about that. We're gonna start paying a little more attention to when we're doing these traditional styles, like figuring out, just doing a little more work to figure out the water profile in that area, like like you're saying in Kolsch or in Germany, varying wherever, you know.
Yeah.
Like, well, this is what their water's like, so we're gonna add this and do this and get the water to be carry around.
Mr. Brown, Mr. Proctor, I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks.
Really informative.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Thank you. That'll be good.